Hello everyone. Okay, today I'm talking about other ways to find careers besides looking at the Atmakarika. And so the planets in the Pada or the Upapada can also give career, and the Ascendant Lord can give career, and finally the Mahadasha and the Antardasha, that the Lord of your Mahadasha or your Antardasha can also give your career. Now, to find the Upapada and the Pada, I explained that in previous videos. It's very easy. The Pada is just it's how many houses from your ascendant to its lord, and then the same amount of houses around. So, and you always count in a forward direction when you are looking for the Pada or the Upapada. So let's say your ascendant is Pisces and your Jupiter is in Libra. So that's 8 signs away. So you would count 8 signs from Libra, which would be Taurus. So Taurus would be the Pada. Let's say your Upapada is Sagittarius. So, and that would also, and your Jupiter is in Libra. So then you would count, that's 11 houses away. You would always count in a forward direction, no matter if they are feminine or masculine signs, because this is based on houses, not the signs. So that's, and Jaimini says to do it that way. He is very specific about when he says to count backwards and when he says to count forward. So, okay, so then your Upapada, if let's say your 10th house cusp is in Sagittarius, you would count 11 houses to Jupiter, which would be in Libra, and then you would count another 11 houses away from Libra, which would be Leo, and Leo would be your Upapada. So that's how you find the Pada and the Upapada. Now, if the Upapada or the Pada, okay, so if the Bhava Lord or the House Lord is in the 1st or 7th from the house, meaning, let's say your Ascendant Lord is in your 1st house, so the Pada would immediately go to the 10th house. Let's say your 7th Lord is in the 7th house, then the Pada would immediately go to the 10th house. That is a rule, okay? Now, if the House Lord is in the 4th or 10th house from the Ascendant or the 10th house cusp, then the Pada automatically goes to the 4th. That's also a rule. That's the exception to the rule of counting the house to the Lord and the Lord to the Pada. So that's how you find the Pada and the Upapada. Pretty easy, right? Okay. Now you can also find, as I said, the Ascendant Lord, called the Lagnesh, can also give the career. In some circumstances it can, especially if it's running its Mahadasha. Because the Ascendant Lord, like the Atmakarika, is you. It represents you in the chart. So yeah. And then finally the Dasha and Antardasha you're running. Now, these careers that I'm going to talk about incorporate a lot of the descriptions of the planets that are also described in Parashara. Parashara gives several chapters on the planets and what they rule, and also the elements they rule and what the elements do, and you can kind of figure out from there, and I'm going to give some examples in a minute. So, and I just finished a course and a series of videos on descriptions of the planets and the elements, everything they rule, which I'm going to be putting up on my website very soon. I'm currently working on my website right now, so I'm going to make it subscription based with several courses. So there you go. Okay, so to get started now, let's have some examples. Let's say if you have your own business. If you have your own business, it's always Mercury or the 7th house that is prominent, that comes into play, because Mercury is your own business. Mercury rules all business, and the 7th house is owning your own business. So So somehow the lords of those or Mercury and the lord of the seventh house, or the seventh house itself, or you're running a planet that's in the seventh house. That means you own your own business, and you do very well. If you have both of those, if you have Mercury and the lord of the seventh together, or Rashi aspecting each other, or in the Lagna, or with the Lagna lord, you're probably going to see somebody who at one point in their lives owns their own business. Okay. Now, let's say you have a painting business, and Mercury would be the primary planet if you own your own business, and also Mercury rules manual dexterity, and he rules art, believe it or not. But actually, the manual dexterity it takes to create art, where Venus rules the actual work of art, which I said before. Now, Venus would also have to be involved because Venus rules beautification and interior decorating. And if you're painting the inside or the outside of a house, that's basically what you're doing. Now, so what distinguishes an oil painter from someone who paints houses? Okay, well, it has to do with the house cusps. Not the houses he's painting, but the houses in the chart. So an oil painter would have to have the third house, which is manual dexterity, the fourth house, which is works of art, and the fifth house, which is creativity, all involved with his career planets. Okay? Whereas a house painter would only need the third house, which is manual dexterity, and the sixth house, which is being an employee or working under someone, and it's also kind of making repairs, which you're mostly doing when you're repainting a house. So that's what he would have to have involved. You would have to get the house cusps involved to really nail down that career, to see, the subtle differences between certain kinds of careers. Okay? All right, another example. Let's say you empty people's septic tanks for a living. Okay, and you live in a rural area, and a lot of people have a septic system. So then you would need a vehicle, which is Venus. Venus rules all vehicles, to pump the sewage, which is Saturn. Saturn is sewage and excrement, everything we flushed out of the body. And then you would also have to have Mercury involved, because Mercury is your own business, unless you're working for somebody, unless you're actually you're an employee driving around the truck, then you won't even need Mercury or the seventh house involved. Okay? So let's say Mercury is your Atmakaraka and you're running a Venus, Saturn, Mahadasha, Antardasha, then that would definitely put you in the running for, it has all of the hallmarks there for getting rid of sewage, or taking sewage, emptying septic tanks. Okay, so let's see. Okay, let's say you teach yoga. All right, so to be a teacher of anything, it doesn't matter what it is, to be a teacher of something, if you're teaching something like I'm doing right now, you have to have a full moon. And when I say full, I mean the moon is in the 6th, 7th, or 8th sign away from the sun. Okay, that's considered full. You have to have a full moon with Venus or Rashi aspected by Venus. That will make you a teacher. And this is in either the Rashi, the birth chart, or the Navamsha, which is the 9th divisional chart. Okay, and to teach yoga, you would have to have Mars there, because Mars rules athletes and exercise. And Mars rules the fire in the body. And when we exercise, we get hot. And then, of course, we sweat to cool off, which is ruled by Venus. The water in the body is ruled by Venus. So, and then you would also have to have the 6th house involved, because the 6th house is exercise. And you could have, I would have said before, you would have to have the 8th house involved, because the 8th house is occult practices. But yoga has become so mainstream now in the West that I don't even consider it a cult anymore. It's just, a different exercise practice that people do. So, yeah, that's what you would need if you wanted to teach yoga, or if you were a yoga teacher. Okay, and let's say another one is, let's say you're a secretary of a CEO at a company. You're his personal secretary. You know, you have the pool of secretaries that have bosses that are under the CEO, but you are the actual CEO secretary. You would have to have Venus because Venus is king's servants, the king's servant, okay? And the CEO is the king of his domain. So you would definitely have to have Venus linked with your career in the Pada, Upapada, Atmakaraka, or the Ascendant Lord, which is the Lagnesh, they call it. And then, or running a Venus Dasha. And then Mercury and the 6th house would have to be involved because Mercury rules clerical work, and so does the 6th house, okay? Lots of 6th house and Mercury in there. Mercury gives a ton of careers, that's why. So, okay, let's say you're a lumberjack, okay? You're a lumberjack. Mars would have to be involved because Mars is cutting and sawing. And then the sun would have to be involved because the sun rules trees that are harvested for their wood. And that is specifically in Parashara, which I just finished and we'll go over later, okay? So the Dasha system can help a lot in determining careers for everyone, but especially for people who have Saturn as their Atmakaraka, because Saturn doesn't give a career. He just makes you work hard in whatever career you get into. So reading the dashas the person is running for, if Saturn is alone in the Navamsha, or if he's alone in the Swa, which is the sign of the Atmakaraka in the Navamsha, or if he's alone in the Rashi, which is called the Karakamsha. You can also use planets Rashi aspecting Saturn, but in my view, I would go to the running dasha at the time. Okay? So, as I said before, I'm currently working on courses and videos that I will offer to the public with an emphasis on Western astrologers that want to learn Vedic astrology. And for the most part, I'm leaving out the Sanskrit terms when I do use them, I will provide English translations and English descriptions. And the reason I'm doing this is because a lot of Western astrologers do want to learn Vedic astrology, but are turned off by all it's basically learning a different language. And, you know, you do have to learn a lot of Sanskrit terms, and some people just don't want to deal with all that. They're already learning a completely different systems of astrology, and now they have to learn another language. So I want to kind of skip over all that. I'm going to mostly say it in English, and if there are Sanskrit terms, I'm going to describe them, okay, or translate them. And the courses that I'm developing are going to have an emphasis on Jaimini techniques for everything that I've covered so far: occult astrology, career astrology, spiritual astrology, but also medical astrology, the kind of person you will marry, some of the illnesses you will get, and basically how to overall read a chart. He gives several techniques to kind of see in a nutshell a person's life and what areas of life they're going to be concentrating on. And they're unbelievably accurate. They're great, and people love to hear about it when you give a reading. So I'm going to concentrate on those things too. Also, Jaimini tells you, how intelligent you are, all kinds of things. So I'm going to be concentrating on Jaimini techniques. And then another is Varshafal techniques, which is the solar return. The solar return chart I use a lot. I think I use it about the same as Jaimini, even more, because you can really make some great time-based predictions all within a year based on this solar return chart. So, and it's based on the Tajika Nilakantha, which is the Tajik system of astrology, and that's the book that was written. And that's where, most of our solar return in Western astrology, Roman astrology, the orbs of influence they developed comes from. So yeah, and then I'm going to also talk about the most effective Parashara techniques there are out there in when you're interpreting a chart, your own chart or someone else's. So yeah, that should be fun. And I will do quite a lot of advertising and promoting when this is ready. I'm hoping this will be ready in a month's time, maybe even sooner. It just depends on, you know, how much I want to work at it. So, and I will let everyone know, okay? So that's it for today, and please subscribe if you liked this video or hit the like button, and see you soon.